Yeah.
Okay, Anna, whenever you're ready, we can start broadcasting or
Sure.
reading.
We started streaming mid-cookie, so
So we're on?
yeah, we're on.
Okay.
Totally different video, Anna.
We've been found.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the deliberations for the City Planning Commission hearing on February 8th, 2021. During deliberations, commission members review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by the applicants or the public.
All right, thank you, Anna. As part of our normal process, we will usually we will deliberate on the cases where the applicants are present during the deliberation. And we do have applicant from case 2, 3, and 5 are still with us. So we'll do our deliberation in that order, and then we'll end up with case number 4. So we'll start with case number 2. Are you ready, Anna?
Yes.
Okay. Case number 2, E-13-20-21, 235 Alexander Street, to establish a restaurant and a carriage house located in the rear of the property, and to establish outdoor seating for the proposed restaurant, and to legalize off-street parking, to liberalize the off-street parking lot at the property, an action requiring City Planning Commission approval. In the motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Mr. Marlin moved. And who second? Mr. Flowers. Thank you. Okay, discussion.
When do we start?
Yeah.
I know.
Let's go ahead, Brad.
I am not necessarily opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ricardo.
I'm not necessarily opposed, but there's just a lot of questions that need to be answered. These were legitimate concerns brought up when it came to the noise and when it came to dumpsters and parking and even the fact that they didn't even contemplate to maybe talk to the adjacent properties to see if they could get an agreement for parking. I just feel that there's a lot of research. I'm okay with the restaurant. I just think there's just a lot more that could be done to make sure that people don't feel that they're not being heard. I feel that they have to do a little more due diligence. That's not even going into the code, which obviously that's not we discussing right here. But overall, I think there should be more engagement with the neighborhood and maybe trying to find a solution that is best suited for the space. Again, not against the restaurant, more of a procedure and protocol.
Okay, any other comments, concerns, questions?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very small space, and I'm trying to picture you've got 60 people in the restaurant, and you've got 10 cars coming in and out, and you got people cutting down the pathway, and it just kind of makes me want to have a panic attack, honestly. That may be a little extreme, but it is a very claustrophobic space for that number of people. That was part of the reason I was asking about occupancy, because I was trying to picture standing in that parking lot looking up in the building. You got 4 people, 4 people, 4, 4, 4, like it just, and maybe some of it's COVID, so grain of salt, but it just felt very dense for that space with cars coming in and cars coming out and folks walking in. So I have some concerns, obviously.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other concerns?
One of my biggest hangups is going to be the egress, and this is to John's point. The one-way drive, the second one-way drive, one's very close to the 11-foot minimum. It's 10.5 or 10 foot 5 inches. That's negligible if you're splitting the difference on either side. But 8'9", I mean, there are cars that are 8 feet wide. It's like it's going to be pretty tight. And that's just the only reason. And I'm looking back at the site plan. The reason why it's so tight is because there are spaces right there. Yeah, it's because there are spaces right there. And the sidewalk. So it's next to the sidewalk. And And
Are
I
you
don't
talking
see,
about egress out onto Alexander Street?
that's right, Tom. Yep.
That sidewalk is currently grass and they're proposing a sidewalk just so that pedestrians don't have to walk in the parking lot.
Sure. And this site plan doesn't say whether there's going to be a curb onto that or if it's going to be at grade.
Mm.
Right. And so like if it's at grade, what's the point of a sidewalk? People are just going to drive on it anyway. And if it's curbed, then this is going to be like a super tight exit.
Okay.
I th-
Yes, Brad.
I'm often the one that says parking. Nah, who needs parking? But like, I don't know. It's more the egress, I think, than anything, and it's because of the parking spaces that they've got down along the side.
Yeah, I'm thinking about delivery as well because it's gonna be a restaurant. So, so trucks backing in, backing out.
I do think we can't overlook the parking garage across the street, which is probably going to provide for more parking than most restaurants that we have. I don't think it's as convenient for a restaurant goer, but it does provide a large capacity.
I'd rather see an alternative parking plan that satisfies the spaces by doing a count of the alternative places, and it's always up to the actual operator of whatever business is in that space then to like actually tell their people this is where you need to be parking, and give them the means to do that. And we can't oversee that. We don't know if people are actually ever going to do that, but in an ideal vacuum, that's how it happens. And I'm with you there, Kim, that I think like I'd rather see spaces 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 go away on the site plan to open that up as an egress space, which gives the whole thing a lot more of, circular feel. And instead tell the applicant, like, come up with a better alternative parking plan and like, let us vet that instead. And like, think through that, be robust, come with a true operation that you're going to do with that so we can like really consider it.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with Harding as well. Maybe then at that time, we'll give them a chance to go and talk to the neighbors and try to get an agreement. See if they could use some of those empty parking lots around the area. Because, I mean, if it's the use of the space, can it be a restaurant? Obviously, it's a high density area. I'm not opposed, but I think they have to come with some more agreements or some more due diligence when it comes to the surrounding. How are they going to mitigate the parking situation, as you guys talking about? How they're going to mitigate the noise? They mentioned about maybe making sure everything is clean. All of these things, they have to talk to the neighbor. They have to kind of have it in writing, in plan. And I think that will probably help them a lot with their application.
I do think also, though, that the neighbors have an obligation to review the proposal. A lot of the questions or concerns are addressed in the paperwork. I don't know. I don't want to criticize people, but
But what about noise in dumpsters and things?
Yeah, well, and I think they spoke to the dumpster issue, but I do think also that this applicant is perhaps being a little bit unfairly maligned by the behavior of a past operator. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to judge this applicant on the experience. I'm sure the neighbor's experience is entirely fair, what they had before, but speak at least what I've heard with respect to the concerns, concerns about exhaust or garbage and rodents and things like that really seem to be significantly mitigated by the proposed application. And it just doesn't seem to me to be an apples to apples comparison to compare a predominant bar scene with a sustainable, predominantly dine-in scenario.
I want to back off that because one of the comments was very concerned about if this operator would leave and then like a bar would occupy that. That would not be the case because bars are not permitted as of right in this size. So to kind of alleviate that concern, it would not, a bar of this size could not jump into this building when this potential operator leaves it.
I think that point, Anna, is like great for the applicant to take. And in with the recurring theme to all of this is like, if they're going and talking to the neighborhood and just like kind of helping to educate what it is that they're trying to do, that's a great point that they can take and go to the other people within the neighborhood and say, look, I hear your concerns, but if I leave, it can't even do what you're worried about without a whole boatload of stuff. It doesn't just like, scoot in. So.
And usually when we approve something with condition and for, let's say, for a year, I look into the investment that they have to make into the space to see if it makes sense. This is a small space, so I'm willing with condition to approve it for a year and see how it goes. But not more than a year for right now, just to make sure that
my only concern with time limits is that they're making structural alterations. There's an extension to this.
right. That's
1 year is not enough for any business. Anybody that's going to invest big money in a business, 1 year is not enough. My issue is that I felt that there was not enough forethought given in the presentation to answer the questions that came up that were relevant. So I believe that the applicant should now the applicant has an opportunity to answer some of those questions that will trouble us in a more concise manner. So it's a matter of communication. Tell me what the problem is, but there's some things that the applicant should have been ready to answer without being part of a reaction.
right. No, I agree.
I mean, one thing that some of the neighbors raised was, how do you patrol, or like, how do you keep something that's primarily a restaurant from migrating over being primarily a bar? And so maybe that's one of the questions they could help answer, if that's something you're inclined to do in terms of sending them back to.
Well, I think, Tom, that a lot of that goes to, this is a special permit, and we're specially permitting a restaurant at this location. And if anything is there that's not a restaurant, it's not allowable.
But like, how do you place conditions that would keep that the case?
Right.
Like,
I mean, wouldn't it be if a prospective business owner came to the permit counter and wanted to get a permit to open their new space, and we saw the application was for a bar and it was denied because a bar of this size wasn't allowed in this building?
no, but I mean, even this applicant, if they say they're going to be a restaurant and they go in.
So one of the things this commission, hi everyone, this is Matt. One of the things this commission has done before is they've done approvals on condition that it function in accordance with a submitted floor plan, and no changes to that would be allowed to occur. And what that does is I think it answers the questions that are being entertained here, where any changes would have to come back before this commission. And that also helps in terms of a new user coming into the space, because the certificate of occupancy that would be issued would be on the condition that it continue to function with this approval. So just as some food for thought.
Right.
Floor plan though has seating.
The other thing you might want to talk about here, depending on what decision you make, I know the garbage was a issue that was discussed for some of the neighbors, and I know it was discussed that they explored getting toters in lieu of a dumpster, which might be helpful. But the applicant can also explore, because this is a specially permitted use, having to store their refuse on the inside of the building and brought out at night before pickup if it's picked up at the curb. So just another consideration if it's a concern for neighbors.
Now, this question is for Tom. So how can we approve, let's say, a plan that is preliminary, and also is stated on record that changes will be made to this plan? So if we approve this plan, we already know it's going to change, especially if the occupancy, because right now this is depending on this, the way they do the square footage is if you're standing or if you're sitting or if you, so he still have to do a lot of code review to ensure he meets his occupancy. But if we approve this on the condition of the plans available right now, it's gonna change.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Yes, so that might go to what some of the other commissioners have been saying, or you yourself, like that there are unanswered questions. And so you could, if you were so inclined, say that they have to limit to X number of restaurant seats. You could impose conditions, but I see what you mean. As the application submitted now, you don't really have an idea of how many patrons would be there at the same time.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain they're probably gonna need another means of egress. So some of the racks may be out, so they could go through the back to the kitchen as an emergency exit. So there's just so much that have to become done that I know is gonna change. So.
Let me offer a suggestion.
Yeah, I think with this, I recall, I think with only one, with the current staircase, I think they're limited to 25. I don't know if that's for the entire building or just the second floor. But that's to the point that we need building code review or building code lane.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if it's 5, they may not need.
Go ahead, Milton.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
I guess I would like to consider looking at offering an opportunity for them, for us to hold this over and to ask the applicant to look at a very specific number of seats that we would recommend that the restaurant have, and then base their calculations for exits, table sizes, all that stuff, be based upon those numbers of actual dining units, so to speak. So that, we get an idea that we're saying we want to have a limit of the size. We're not talking about up to 75. You may say limit it to 45. That'd be the maximum number of clients that you could have in the restaurant. We would be willing to waive those 5 parking spots along the egress to the Alexander Street side to allow for more flexibility for his refuse, other people getting in and out, and make it much more safe for all those who are walking. Thoughts? Tom, you're on mute.
One thing they said is that they might be able to have toters and just wheel them out so they wouldn't need
understand.
access. But maybe it would help to ask, like, if they could confirm with Waste Management that that's something that's practicable with a restaurant of whatever you all suggest is the size. Whether you could do that via toters.
And again, if we limit that size, that gives them a limit of the size of the kitchen, the amount of food that they would be using, refuse, all those other kinds of considerations.
I think they did confirm that with Waste Management. The applicant spoke to that.
And they said that they had some kind of compacting, something that would reduce the amount of waste that would make it manageable.
Yeah, they'll use impact earth.
I don't know. I'd feel better because I live on Park Avenue right above a restaurant, and it's a small restaurant, and they have a big dumpster. I don't know if they asked the question Waste Management of, would this work for a restaurant of X number of seats?
Would having toters work for a restaurant?
Yeah, like
Yep.
Is that even doable?
Yeah, is it Harry G's on South Avenue as an example? They don't have a site with the capacity for a dumpster, so I think they have a fleet of dumpsters that they roll out on trash days.
And
and
I also
go on, Kim.
I was just going to say, I also do think that that the intention to compost significantly reduces the amount of waste. And I speak to that anecdotally as a composter with Impact to Earth,
Yeah,
but I
that's
have
still
significantly less garbage.
It's
so
still
that's
someone
the
that
plan.
has to pick up. That means still trucks or something coming in to pick that stuff up.
Right, but I think as far as we're speaking to toters or dumpsters or whatever the case may be, it's a reduced amount to get it. Whatever waste management is picking up is significantly reduced, and so I think we have to look at them in two separate.
But they're going to compost
certainly
on
the
site.
total amount. Yeah, it gets picked up every week. Well, or
What?
as I don't know whether it is for a restaurant, but it's not a compost pile on site. It's just you kind of preserve your compostable waste and they pick it up.
But you're still generating that waste. They're not going to compost it on site, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is when we're talking about toters and dumpsters, that would be separate from, or what we're bringing out to the street, or whether that's a feasible solution, is we're not talking about a full amount of restaurant waste. We're talking about a very significant decrease in what would be either toted out by waste management or toted out once by waste management and once by Impact Earth. I'd be interested in what the plan is, or how you're storing waste or the compost for Impact Earth. And what the plan is to get that out to the street. I think that's the more relevant piece of the analysis, because I think that the toters seemed feasible to me.
The toters also mitigate the refuse truck kind of having to navigate this narrow aisle.
Mhm.
And we could potentially pull in Matt Simonis's idea of internal storage, but maybe designate that for the compost being stored inside. And then that satisfies the neighbors. The neighbor was concerned about this type of use affecting how their office refuse operates. That doesn't land with you guys? You're not into that?
No, I mean, I think that makes some sense. I know that when I heard the composting idea, it made sense that would reduce the amount of refuge external. And if they could store it internally until it's picked up. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so how do we want to proceed? Do you want to hold it over and ask for specific issues that we feel still need to be addressed?
I think they need to have a conversation with the neighbors at the very least.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the removal of allow them to remove those first 5 spots on the exit so that that's open access to the street?
Right, with a thoughtful alternative parking plan. And we can't tell people what to do, but like if it was my application, that's what I would do, is like remove those, because it's a big sticking point.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they're listening to all of this too. I'm sure they are. But yeah, take that guidance, kind of change the site plan, talk to the neighbors in the meantime. And Kim and Anna, like your points about composting it does hit home to me. Sarah and I do it here too. Like we drop it off at Abundance Co-op. It's a tiny little thing. You drop it once a week, but like they grab, and it's amazing how much it changes, Tom. If you don't do it yet, like highly recommend.
No, I do it, but they're not going to do it on the site. They're not going to do it on the site.
Okay.
Or you guys get chickens like me, and then there's no such thing as scraps. It just turns into their food.
Maybe they should just add a chicken pen, right?
It's a very sustainable group that we've got.
Yeah.
We're going to take a parking space. It's going to become a chicken pen.
Yeah.
We got all covered up. I also like the idea of limiting the total number. I mean, they mentioned like 25 people. Good. Then cap it at 45 or something. Give us a better layout so that we're not talking about 85 patrons and 10 staff and 2 valet parking people, and it's just chaos.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just keeps coming back to this. Like, I think we all have a general sense, or at least what I'm hearing from everybody is that there's a general sense that it just like there are too many variables going on. And so if it's just tighten a little, we're not going to like necessarily hold people down to every single detail, because things have to change. But if it's a little bit more thoughtful in the first, now the second iteration, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's do this, Anna.
Well, can I repeat I just want to kind of process.
Right, because I was going to.
You guys,
list of things we wanted.
you guys want, it sounds like you guys want the occupancy posting to be firmed up a little bit more. So you kind of have a
Yes,
very
yes.
strong sense of what you're,
Maximum of 45, I would like.
okay.
I like
I
Um,
that.
I wouldn't want to give them the number.
No.
I think they should come up with a plan,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to give them the number either.
because business, what works for them.
They
You know,
need to,
we don't know that.
they need
And
to
al-
work with their building code official to kind of firm up that posting.
Right.
Exactly, because the code may allow something that we don't want to go against the code itself.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
the occupancy is made for this, so I agree.
So that's number one. Then the second concern is maneuverability. That's talking about the removal of those aisles on that exit row, kind of
Yes.
just concerned about how the site functions and giving space for that.
Mhm.
The thing that I'm kind of struggling with, because Kim brought up the apples to oranges comparison of a Miller's bar or something like that. Like a lot of the comments that we received, they were concerned about garbage, noise, public urination, things of that nature. And so the thing that I'm having a hard time is, given what Kim said about we can't really hold them to those concerns, when you want them to work with their neighbors, what are they addressing?
I think the biggest issue is the refuse. Because we can't control people's behavior, we can't control the noise, but we can't control what happens with the refuse.
I think too, just a discussion about the project itself and kind of describing what the intention is would help to allay those concerns. Like I said, a lot of the concerns I heard felt to me to be abated in the paperwork. But again, furthering those conversations to make it clear that at least to me, this sounded more like a much more targeted dining experience than a bar atmosphere.
Mhm.
And I think getting the neighborhood comfortable with that might allay those concerns.
Right.
Just a general informational session. But in addition, I think those concerns about noise, et cetera, I mean, we could do like a 1-year permit. It's not so much the structural piece, like once that's changed, but that would maybe incentivize to make sure that those types of concerns would be properly monitored, such that next year the neighbors could feel like they had an opportunity if there were significant ongoing concerns, that both sides might be invested. I don't know. Anna doesn't like that idea, so maybe not.
I really don't like the idea. No, I like everything you're saying, except I get really nervous about affixing a time limit to something when there's like a 234-foot addition.
Right.
Right.
I
Right.
feel like we kind of hit this issue with another project in Monroe where there was like, drive-throughs being put in with temporary approvals and stuff.
I think we've navigated this very well in the past. Giving people the right amount of time, taking into account the investment that they might have, and so I think we've done a good job at doing that. My issue is firming up the plan, having more communication with the neighbors, so that it makes our job easier if we know exactly where we're going. Comfort or perceived discomfort in the neighborhood is going to happen all the time. We've navigated through those two, and I think that most of the time we do a fair job in the decisions that we make, and and I think we'll do it with this one, one way or the other.
Yeah,
I need a clearer plan.
and it seems to me if you've invested like I'm not comfortable saying that they're going to spend all this money and therefore it's just blessed for the future. I think if it is an actual concern, I'm much more comfortable saying, well, you've invested a lot of money in this project, and gee, wouldn't that be sad if it all went to waste because you didn't care enough about your neighbors to make sure that the noise stayed down. I don't know. I have like the actual inverse, like, yes, we don't want people to just sink, to throw away money or to make bad investment, but I don't think that a full sanctioned approval and just to kind of go forward with no repercussion about the concerns of the neighbors is appropriate.
Right.
So Anna, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I
Oh.
just want to say that I get that Kim is saying that neighborhood investment is equally important as like the physical and financial investment.
Yes, a concern about cooperation and respect of the neighbors is
Right.
Oh, we agree.
part of
Yeah.
being a citizen of that community and that neighborhood, and
Sure.
no matter how much you spent to be there.
So Anna, do you have enough that you can write?
No, I need
what do
I need Brad to talk about the parking alternatives a little bit more so I can make sure I have that right.
Yep. The thought, so if you're looking, look at the site plan.
I can also pull it up and try not to show my background.
The spaces and yep, to the south. So there are, and this actually gets rid of one of the waivers too, which is a front yard parking, spot number 1. So I'm saying get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which would bring their deficit to 7 versus 2, and then find an alternative parking plan for 7 spaces.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
Anything else, Anna, that you needed?
Wait, I know I'm beating a dead horse with a stick, but I just want to make sure that
It's
I'm
okay. Nope.
getting you guys correctly. Firm up occupancy, that means further discussion with building code to kind of, so you have something more finite or final. The alternative parking plan and maneuverability kind of go hand in hand, but it kind of addresses that issue. But I think most importantly also discussion with the neighborhood to kind of provide the project purpose and intention, talk about, mitigate any issues with dumpsters and noise, things of that nature, but also any future zoning uses so they can alleviate concern there. Did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
Not future uses, like how do they make sure that a restaurant that is nominally a restaurant really is a restaurant and not just like a bar with like
Yeah, and that'll probably work well with them having a more firmed up floor plan, because then we can kind of do what Matt was suggesting earlier about the conditional approval on that floor plan.
yeah.
Okay, Anna, you're all set with that?
I am. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or concerns that we want to make sure we put into this decision? Makiba, you okay? Makiba?
Yep.
Oh,
There.
you
Am I?
okay?
Can you hear me?
I
Yep.
can
I
hear
said
you
I'm just
now.
new. Yep. I'm new and I'm trying to soak up the information. So I'm
Oh,
really
understand.
listening to everybody,
Understand.
as to the questions, as to everything. So I don't want to say something that doesn't fit the script. So I'm just listening.
Okay, I didn't want
But I'm
you to-
here.
Okay, good.
I'm
That's why
here.
I asked, 'cause I want to make sure that if you had any concerns, they were out there.
No
Okay,
problem.
So
I'm here.
basically what we're saying is that we want to hold this application over until at least the next scheduled meeting, if not longer. If they need more time, they can ask for more time. And
Right.
have them to answer the questions that Anna had identified, the parking, the refuse, the number, the size, and work with the building operations about that access, and then continue to work with the neighborhood and the community to get their questions answered.
Yep.
Correct?
So the applicant
Yeah.
will, and instead of like a decision letter, the applicant will get a hold letter, which will pinpoint all of that.
Okay, all right. So that being said, we need to vote on that. So all those in favor of voting to hold over this application with the recommendations that we provided Anna for the applicant, all those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? All right, so it's 7-0-0. Thank you, guys. I think that was good discussion. Sometimes we've got to ask for more information.
Mhm.
All right. So we set for your case number 2, Anna?
Yep.
No, I'm sorry. Case number
Number
3.
three.
Case number 3. All right. Case number 3, E-14-20-21, 143 to 147 Webster Avenue to establish a 16-space ancillary parking to serve a daycare center, caring and sharing day child care center located at 86 through 90 Webster Avenue, and action requiring City Planning Commission approval.
Motion.
Thank you, Carrie.
Second,
Thank you, Brad. Oh, Brad didn't? Oh, who?
I did.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marlin. Yeah, Neil. Okay, all right, discussion.
good.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm
No, I
happy
think
that she answered the question about making it a private lot and not a public
Yes.
lot, and that she has a game plan for it. That's great.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my only concern, and she addressed it. So
Yep.
seems like a good use of the space. If
Yeah.
you look like a parking lot, it's gonna be used as a parking lot.
And I think there, if I'm not mistaken, were there no, on the site plan, there was no outdoor lighting, is that correct, Anna? Or no, there weren't any plans for that, putting in lighting, because they're basically closed early evening?
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah. No lighting proposed.
Okay, yep, so I don't have a problem with that. Now, is the security access, is that a site plan, approved by site plan?
So actually, are you referring to like equipment or control measures to discourage
Yes.
illegal parking? That would
Mhm.
actually be you all. Currently, the site plan said, no, there are no equipment control measures, but as you learned from your testimony this evening, that she does intend to have at least a guard, a chain rail,
Yes,
that would be modified as part of this approval. So that wouldn't be something that you're waiving because it's now that you
A
now.
part of it.
Mhm.
okay. All right, no, I know that there were some, on staff report, the code compliance, things that we needed to waive some of the,
Yeah, the first one is that this isn't an R1 and the daycare center isn't a C1. There's a requirement that they have to be in, that it can't be in a more restrictive district. So you would have to
Mhm.
waive the fact that this ancillary lot is in a more restrictive district to the use it serves.
yes,
And
So we-
then, oh,
so we can waive that.
Yeah, you'd have to
Yes.
explain, the special circumstances for why you'd waive it, for each of these that you're waiving.
Okay, so, at least that's for the first one, correct, Anna?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so ancillary parking lot located in R1 low density residential, a more restrictive district than the neighborhood C1. Okay, and again, I think given the nature of the lot and the location that they're across from each other, is reasonable to
Right.
weigh that.
And it's,
And aren't they-
while it may be rated R1, it's on a main thoroughfare adjacent to businesses, so that may,
Right.
I'm completely comfortable waiving that.
And and currently not being used as a
Yeah.
residential.
And it is existing, so the space is existing, so.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if we could put it in, but I would like to make sure that they keep the green spaces. I know there's grass and things around it, and perhaps explore adding more when available. The site, there was just a little bit of grass in the front. I don't want them to take that out. In fact, I would like to make sure that they explore adding more. I don't want to make a decision, but more like a proposed almost.
sure. As part of this approval is going to be their ticket to pull a building permit. And this will be the drawings that we transfer to that. And these will be the drawings that are stamped. So this is kind of like their contract, so to speak, which will say that this area designated as grass or landscaping will have to be used as such.
Right.
But yeah, I understand the desire for more landscape.
Landscape, yeah.
It is Sorry, I keep cutting you off, Milton.
No, I was just reading what you just said. I was just repeating it. So yeah, I agree.
It is kind of a big lot. So this front half is the parking area itself, and this back is where they have the playground
Right.
for the children. So they walk along Webster and then they cross over, and then here you can start to see the start of the playground equipment, which is all grass area.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all. So it's just in the front area that I was more concerned about.
Okay.
So keep it.
And again, okay, getting back to the waivers. The second one, oops, the
So the
second one,
second one, we jump on over to the second page. The
second
second one
page.
references 120, 173, and it starts off with bicycle parking.
Yeah, and again, I think the nature of that with the kids and the children, they're not going to be using bicycles. So I'd be willing to waive that, given the nature of the business operation.
Wait, where are we now?
So, sorry, let me show you the logic path, but I'll pull it
On
up on.
page 2.
Second page of the staff report, Tom.
Yeah, so we went down to our second thing we had to waive, but it tells us to go reference 173. So now I have to jump down to the second page where 173 is kept.
So bicycle parking. And we're saying that basically is that the kids won't be, well, not many people will be bringing their kids on bicycles. And we feel that that's not necessary and are willing to waive that for this application. Okay, Ann?
Great.
So it's
I wanna-
waived just because you don't need that for a daycare center or little
Yeah,
kid?
I mean,
Or,
yeah, go
or
ahead,
you
Anna.
probably want, if you have people biking to the daycare, you'd probably want the bike parking on the daycare site itself rather than the ancillary lot.
Across the street. Mhm. Okay, so we'll waive that. And next, Anna.
So the next one is front yard parking. It might be helpful if I explain this in the site plan.
Okay,
So we don't want cars in the front of buildings. This one there's a building on either side. You can kind of
Mhm.
see its outline right here.
yes.
And this is where our first parking lot is. So technically, while it's behind this screening, this landscaping screening, it still juts out in front of that building. So this first row or line of cars are technically in the front.
And again, I think the nature of the site, I think dictates that we can waive that because that way it would, if we didn't, they would be out of 4 spaces.
Yeah, and it's not like they're tearing something down to put in spaces for front yard parking. It's existing.
Right.
So
Right.
for that reason, I'd be okay with waiving it as well.
Okay,
This
got that, Anna?
The next one, I'm gonna go back to that site plan. So we typically want to see solid fences because that's the height you would see like headlights from a car. So to kind of shield from adjacent buildings. But on the sides, they have like a steel picket rather than a solid. So that's something that they're requesting from you.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe at least the building on the right side, I think doesn't have any windows that face that, or windows at ground level that face the parking lot. Unless I'm mistaken. Did anybody notice
Yeah.
that when you went out for your site visit?
And there aren't, yeah, I actually don't know that.
But I think because that, I believe that's a brick building, if I remember correctly.
Sounds right to me, but also I think the fact that this will be primarily used for daytime helps to
Right.
mitigate against the headlight issue.
Headlamps. Okay. I concur with that.
Yes.
The next one is our minimum requirement for landscaping aisles are to be 5 feet, but they are proposing 4 feet at these 2 landscaping areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Again,
And 5 in the other, right?
Yep, exactly. 5, right? So they're meeting the requirement here. They're looking for a waiver here and here for 4 feet.
Yeah, again, I think with the nature of the site, I think I would be willing to waive that.
The nature of the site being what?
Being that it's 4 feet is well within the gives us the allowable parking, but we can't increase it, otherwise we'd be on onto the to the sidewalk. So if we ask it to be larger, it would decrease the number of potential parking spots.
Staying on the landscaping train,
Mhm.
usually we want to see, and in this case, the requirement is for at least one landscaping aisle to kind of break up the parking lot C, but
Right.
they are requesting a waiver. I imagine it's to maximize the amount of parking
Number.
so they can still maintain the green space back and
Now with the stripes there, the 3.25 feet that's striped in the center,
yeah,
is it, what is that? Is that a sidewalk?
no, it's just
Just
paint.
walking for walking.
Paint. It's just paint. Yeah,
Oh.
I think it's just striping on the lot. I'm not sure why they did it
Okay.
that way.
No, and again, I think the size of the lot, again, if we would ask for more of the landscaping to be put in, that would reduce the number of spots available. And I'm willing to waive that because we get optimal number of parking spots.
Mm.
The next one is for lighting. They're not proposing any lighting.
And I think, again, appropriate given the nature of the business and their hours of operation, that wouldn't be needed. The employee, excuse me, that the employees and families are not going to be parking there late at night.
The next one is the setback, the front yard setback. As you know, it's only 4 feet in these two. Oh, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, can we do suggested lighting as well? As we do the greenery, because I agree wholeheartedly that this will be primarily a daytime space, but I'm reminded that we also live in Rochester where it gets dark at like 2 p.m. I have no idea. And so even a 6 p.m. departure might be a little bit darker. So I don't want to make it a requirement, but I do think it is probably a good idea.
So
Yeah.
we're looking at 2 recommendations, lighting and landscaping.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the recommendation on landscaping? That I thought there was a requirement just not to remove any existing.
Right.
That's not a recommendation, is it? Or
Oh, okay. Maybe I misunderstood you, Milton. Do you mind digging me out of this hole or whatever, however you say it?
For which one specifically, Anna?
Landscaping. I know that you want the current landscaping to be maintained. And
Right.
then,
Yeah, so essentially, I don't want them to, and you answered my question, essentially, if they cannot deviate from the site plan, what I want is to make sure that those grass, as stated on the site plan, stay there and potentially explore to add more. That was mainly my comment.
okay. So landscaping is okay. We're gonna make a recommendation to add lighting.
Right.
Okay.
a non-binding recommendation?
Yes,
Yes.
Right.
because they may feel that it may not be necessary, but if
Right.
they do, we give them approval to do so.
Okay, so the next 2 are a front yard setback and a side yard setback. They need a waiver for their front yard setback. They've only got 4 feet here when it should have been 14 feet. I think that's given the surrounding setbacks. And then on the sides,
5.
yeah, and the sides, it's supposed to total be combined of 25, and their combined is only 13.
Mhm.
I think they're just trying to maximize the parking area so
Parking,
provide more playground.
yep. And it gives ample access to the playground, but also gives optimal size of the number of parking spots.
Yeah.
All right, are those the only ones, Anna?
So so now we can jump back to page 1 and finish off that table in page 1. What we just went through was the subsections of that second cell. Okay, I'm not making any sense. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about.
In row. Yeah, you-
We got it. We got it.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, now we're looking about the equipment or control measures, but as we just learned from her testimony, and you guys like reiterated that she's going to be having some kind of control measures such as a cable.
Cable or chain. Mhm.
All right.
Actually, so there we go. Now we're good.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. All right. So anything else that we need to do, Anna, for that, for the waivers?
Those are all the waivers.
Okay.
Now just if you have any general discussion about I think you started off by saying you were in support of the project, but
Yeah. So any other concerns? No, I think a good project. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I think it'll give them a lot of opportunities that they currently don't have, and I think help make the neighborhood look better.
Yeah.
I do want to shout
Agreed.
I do want to shout them out for creating 2 catch basins. Currently, there's like no grading or
Yes.
drainage proposed, and this is a monumental investment that they're making by having drainage that's connecting to our sewer system.
Yeah.
Isn't that required for parking lots?
It's required, but it's still
Yeah.
nice.
I'm just asking.
It's required. They had to do it.
I understand, but you know, it's not bad to call out things that you have to do. All right. Any other discussion? Any other concerns? All right. Hearing none. We need to vote to
Yeah,
establish.
could we just call the roll just to make it more official?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we can do that. We need have a motion to establish the 16-space ancillary parking lot to serve daycare center, caring and sharing day childcare center located at 86 to 90 Webster Avenue, and actually requiring planning commission approval. All right, all those in favor, starting with
Carol, aye.
Ms. Carey, thank you.
Brad Flower, aye.
Harding, aye.
Eugenio, aye.
Milton, I.
Markiba, aye.
And Dave Watson, aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0-0, the motion passes in the affirmative.
All right, thank you all. Okay,
Awesome.
and we'll move on to case number 5. 160 North Haven Terrace, case E 16-20-21, to establish a residential care facility, New York Adult and Teen Challenge, to consider parking demand analysis and actually requiring city planning commission approval.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. Thank you, Carrie. All right, discussion,
I vote yes.
comments,
Nice,
concerns?
nice discussion,
Great-
Carrie.
Great use of the space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the location is excellent. Like the parking space, backyard, the connection to the hospital. I mean, ideal.
And
Yeah.
it keeps offering, according to what I was reading and what the applicant said. This is unlike most other programs like this where it's women and children.
Mhm.
So I would be willing to waive a heck of a lot to get a new program like that out there. And they're not really asking for a lot of waivers or anything.
Much.
Right.
Kind of wedge a square peg into a round hole.
I think it's a great use of the space. They did a great job on the application. And we need it really. So I really don't have much to say other than this. It's a great project.
That it fills a critical need. And I appreciate, frankly, that the whole group showed up to the CPC hearing. So we're taking it seriously.
All right, any other concerns, any other comments? You know, again, I agree that great project. I think super location. You know, it's out of the way, but not intrusive on the neighbors. And I think wish them a lot of success.
Yeah.
All right, if there are no other questions, no other comments, yes, Anna?
I did appreciate that the applicant included in their testimony about the fencing along the rear side of the property because there was a concern in the public comment about,
People
know,
walking through.
yeah, so it's good to have that addressed on the record.
Yes.
Okay, all right. If there's no other comments or questions, we will move. I move to a vote to establish a residential care facility. Yes, at 160 North Haven Terrace, the New York Adult and Teen Challenge, and consider accepting their parking demand analysis. All those in favor, and we start with Carrie.
Aye.
Brad Flower, aye.
Harding, aye.
Eugenio, aye.
Milton, aye.
Markiba, aye.
And Dave Watson, aye.
By a vote record of 700, the motion passes in the affirmative.
Super. All right, thank you all. And we'll do case number 4. Reminding you that case number 1 has been held over. All right, case number 4, E-15-20-21, 385 East Ridge Road, to establish a residential care facility, the Family Catholic Center, or Catholic Family Center, at a proposed newly constructed building on the parcel. All motion.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flowers. Second?
Yeah, already did.
Oh, I thought he moved.
I did move.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion?
So this is Carrie. I just wanted to clarify. My comments on the last case were actually meant for this case. I thought we were on 4. We jumped to 5. So for
Yes,
case
because
5,
5 was present.
yes, I'm sorry. So case
That's
5,
okay.
Anna actually covered my comment, which is they
Right.
addressed the walkthrough. So that was my only. So I'm going to repeat my comments for case 4, which is I appreciated that everybody from Catholic Family Center showed up and took it seriously.
Right.
2, this is a unique proposal. This is the one that has the women and children that is unlike.
Yes,
The
Yeah.
empowerment program for case 4 is also important, but this is apparently.
equally yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the location is correct,
Mhm.
and the type of service to be provided is quite needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good reuse of property.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. One of our job is to make sure that the land is used in a proper way, and I don't see any other best way of using this one.
Yeah.
Okay with it.
All right. All right, any other discussion, any other concerns? I think a very good project. All right, all those in favor of establishing a residential care facility, Catholic Family Center at 385 East Ridge Road. All those in favor?
Carrie Carroll, aye.
Brad Flower, aye.
Harding, aye.
Eugenio, aye.
Milton, aye.
Markiba, aye.
And Dave Watson, aye.
By a vote record of 700, the motion passes in the affirmative.
All right, thank you all. This is the last case that we have for this evening. Case 1 is being held over until next month or month after. Again, thank you so much for being patient and going with the program. And we'll see you next week or next month.
Next month.
Next week? No.
Next month.
Let's do this every week.
Every Monday, come on.
Whether we need it or not.
It'll be a light caseload next month, maybe just 2 cases or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, we deserve it. You guys deserve it. All right, everybody be safe.